Hi everyone, welcome to yet another video. In this video, what we will do is we will build upon what we learned the last time. Last time what we learned about is how can we find users that are domain users, how can we find out if certain domain users have admin access to a particular computer, can we list certain computers, can we find out the name of the domains that are their child domains, we can list the forests, and we can also find out what trust relationship existed between different forests, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to use certain, like we are using to use the same tools which are sharpview and powerview, and we're going to use that to kind of check for certain misconfigurations that we would typically do on a Linux machine. So the first thing that we are going to do is finding out Kerberos pre-auth not required to perform a AES rep roast attack. Now what is this? Now we know that Kerberos is sort of an authentication protocol. Now what happens here is that it can sometimes be misconfigured. So for certain users, you can set something called pre-auth not required flag, and what would end up happening is you do not require your password to kind of initiate an authentication, and you straight away get a ticket. You can use that ticket to kind of get that user's password, right? So this is sort of a layman's term about explaining this attack, and we're trying to find out users which do not have this flag set. Now as you can see, I can use these three users to kind of get a ticket for these, and then use that ticket to get a hash. Now what would be the tool? So I think it's impacket get npu users to find out rep roasting not enabled, and also fetch the tickets and use hashcat to kind of crack that ticket. All right, the next thing is constrained and unconstrained delegation. So unconstrained is sort of a legacy term within Kerberos, but I'll try to explain this. So what unconstrained delegation is, let's say I have a user. That user wants to access a service, and there is a Kerberos protocol which is KDC here. Now that user will send a request to Kerberos, and that Kerberos will send a ticket back, and a user can use this ticket to kind of access the web application. And with what happens with unconstrained delegation is that user's ticket gets saved to this web application or this service. Now next time a user wants to access a different service right here, the user does not have to go back to KDC to request a ticket to access the service. This application can itself request a ticket for accessing this service on behalf of the user. So you see the issue here. If I am able to compromise this machine or this service or this application, I can kind of request tickets for any other user in the domain to access any other service. So this was called unconstrained delegation. So there is no constraint on what this application can access on behalf of a user. Now that was a legacy term. Now it has been replaced by constrained delegation. Now I cannot just simply request a ticket for any other service in the domain. I will have to request it for, I can request it for certain services, so the number of services remain fixed, so it has become constrained now. So I can use the same tool to kind of find out if unconstrained or sorry constrained delegation exists. So as you can see, trusted to auth, and I'll try to use this. As you can see, there are three users that are vulnerable to this, right? Can we use similar to find for unconstrained delegation? So here is the command. Sorry about that. So you do not have to remember these commands similarly for me, because it would be too difficult to remember command associated with each domain, or sorry, each tool. So what you can do instead is just write these commands down and like use them if you require them. So here is a user who would typically be affected by unconstrained delegation, which is SQL tests, right? So here are three things that we learned in this video. Now what about, can we find out the description associated with the user to see if there are passwords stored in it? So it's quite common in CTF specifically. So I can use the same using LDAP search that we learned previously in one of the videos. So as you can see, there is nothing, uh, there is no user that has a description wherein it contains something valuable, right? Um, Okay, now can we perform? So the next thing that we are going to do is we'll look for users which have service principal names that could be leveraged to perform curb roasting attacks. Sometimes what these users have associated with them are SPNs, and because these are users that have SPNs associated with them, so an admin can sometimes make mistakes of writing easy passwords for them, right? So we can use those to crack using hashcat. So let's see if something of that sort of exists. So these are the users that have SPN associated with this, and I can use a script called impacket get SPN users to kind of request a ticket for these and then crack them offline, right? So yep. All right. Can I find any foreign groups that are associated? So what I can do is sharp view.exe, find foreign group. I don't think there is anything of that sort, but let's try again. Okay, so we were not able to find anything, but what would this command do? So using this command, what we can do is we can enumerate any users from any other foreign group that exists with a group membership within any other groups in our current domain. So let's say that there is a user called Harry that exists in a foreign group called foreign logistics. Now we can use this command to find out if that user exists in our local domain. So we can now use that user to kind of compromise the other domain as well, or to kind of enumerate the other domain as well. So yeah, this is sharp view for you guys. Thanks.